Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions? This story does not add up.
Broadcast get more and more hardcore is because the news is getting crazier. Events on this planet are accelerating. World government has openly been announced. The large 6 megabanks that control most of the planet's wealth and natural resources and populations through derivatives and fractional reserve banking fraud have maneuvered themselves into almost complete control over the globe. They are mopping up third world countries in Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and areas of Asia, and of course the Middle East. They're mopping them up. The global government stratagem to take over countries is fund rebels that then attack the government, whether that government's good, bad, or indifferent, and then call it a humanitarian mission to send in special forces, arms, air bombardments. And then the goal is wreck the country and basically have no central government so that the West can come in with mercenaries and steal the entire resources of the nation. I mean, I have the New York Times here in Uganda last year going, oh, isn't it too bad that under UN rules, private mercenary groups went in and killed entire villages for their property, but it is for the earth. But do you see groups like Coney 2012 and Bill Gates and Angelina Jolie, the reanimated corpse of tyranny? Do you see them running around getting upset about that? No. They cloak their mass murder. They cloak their eugenics. They cloak their extermination worldwide in humanitarianism. And I already knew all this, but since it was pointed out to me 5-6 days ago, now it's at like 100 million views, this Coney 2012 documentary, and now it's collapsed and blown up in their face as it comes out that the president of Uganda has been involved killing millions, that he is backed by the West, that Joseph Kony hasn't been seen in 5 years and only had 500 fighters and is a nobody, kind of like a Jesse James type, and that it all is a pretext funded by the State Department to attack Africa with AFRICOM, and the Pentagon announcing this new jurisdiction where it's going to attack and drone and kill whoever it wants. And the Pentagon doesn't work for us. It works for the big megabanks, just like NATO does. And so Angelina Jolie has come out and said, arrest the head of Lord's Resistance Army. Maybe Joseph Kony's been dead for 5 years, like some say. They've got him frozen. They're going to roll him out as some new bin Laden thing. I don't know. But it made me go back and revisit her. What a monster she is. What a demonic monster she is. And I've shot a video. It's up at Infowars.com that's got links to the mass murder of the UN in Uganda itself that she could care less about. I mean, there's a tsunami, unfortunate pun intended, of death over Africa that's UN and globalist financed, and she found a crooked toenail somewhere and now says bring in the whole UN for more tyranny because Joseph Kony. So I went and researched her again just to remind me of just how bad she is and to confirm my memory. And she is a giant UN envoy cheerleader for the invasion and mass murder in Libya, Syria, Iran, Iraq, UN programs, carbon taxes, humanitarian wars. The so-called anti-war left is a bunch of vicious eugenics killers with a liberal cover. They know exactly who they are. This monster is not a useful idiot. So if Kony needs to be arrested, you need to be arrested because you're like a Nazi propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, for the UN and the New World Order and got a lot more death under your belt, honey, than Joseph Kony ever will. I know you think it's tough because you're the Illuminati Tomb Raider, but I'm here to tell you something. We're going to expose you, witch. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Okay, I started to tell you what's coming up today, and of course, burrowed right into the first top story that I've been harping on since last Tuesday when the Pentagon went before Congress and said, you have no authority over war now. And the Congress is like, well, the Constitution, we declare war, we fund you, we commission the officers, because the founders knew you don't just let the president pick his officers and fund everything. You'll get a president who'll take over, like in every other country. And the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman Joint Chiefs, the Chairman Dempsey, looked at him and said, no, we take orders from the UN. And the senators actually started flushing. Their faces turned red, and they sounded like Porky Pig on I mean, they couldn't even talk. They couldn't even, and I couldn't talk when I saw it. And now it's not even a news issue. Impeachment has begun against Obama. Did you open up your paper Wednesday morning and read that, or Thursday, or Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday? The answer is no. I did web searches every day since. My entire team did. Nothing. Nothing. That's why the newspapers are dying. That's why people are tuning out of mainstream television, because they've got to find somebody that will tell them what's really going on. I remember it was in the radiation monitors. It was on the foreign news that 5 of the 6 reactors had blown up at Fukushima and melted down. That's a year ago now today. It's the anniversary. We have Greg Palast, one of the few good mainstream reporters, investigative journalists with BBC, and he's done work for ABC News. You name it, he's going to be joining us in the last 30 minutes today because he's been over to Japan and covered it. But I watched 2 of the reactors blow up with mushroom clouds. Then I had top physicists, nuclear physicists on, like Dr. Busby, who's also a chemical engineer on top of it. You know, it advises the EU and the UK government. And they had the different radiation sensors picking up the different types of fallout. And so it's like a fingerprint. They knew that fission, massive fission, including explosions, small atomic explosions, which are possible and have happened before in Russia, had taken place in 2 of the reactors, especially the MOX-3 plutonium General Electric reactor. And, of course, months and months later, they admitted it was true. I was no expert. I just went and had experts on and looked at the makeup of those General Electric reactors, that particular plutonium, uranium-based one. They only had 1 of those, almost 40 years old, only supposed to go 20 years. That radiation just eats through the metal, the concrete, everything. These things are rotten. They're like a 110-year-old man's heart. And you've got them climbing up 500 flights of stairs every day. What do you think's going to happen? That's why 9 out of 10 reactors, the federal government even admits, the Department of Energy, are leaking radiation worldwide. 9 out of 10. They melt down in Southern California, not even news anymore. They have meltdowns in Illinois and Nebraska and releases in Canada. I mean, I every few weeks I see a little blurb. There was some radiation. Don't worry, the EPA's raised what they say safe. But I remember going and looking at the manufacturer, getting nuclear physicists on. They're like, wow, how do you know all this? I'm like, well, I looked at the plans, and I noticed they're storing the fuel rods for 40 years on top of these reactors, and it looks like fuel rods being ejected in the mushroom cloud. In fact, roll the mushroom cloud over me for prisonplanet.tv viewers. If you're a radio listener, just Google Fukushima mushroom clouds. Some of these clouds were 3,000 plus feet in the air. And I could see in the higher res videos of it what looked like fuel rods. So I went and checked and found out they were storing the spent fuel rods on top of the reactors. About 6 months after, the New York Times admitted, oh, they found fuel rods 1.5 miles away, and the Japanese government just buried them where they found them. Now, all those millions of tons of junk from Fukushima and the coastline is now, a year later, as we told you, hitting the California and Baja and Western Canada shores with plutonium all over it. And you know what? The radiation's going up, but it's a minor university footnote at Berkeley that, yeah, we picked up 127 times the normal safe level of this type of radioactive isotope, and we picked up a higher thing here, but it's a lot bigger than Chernobyl. You know, just the MOX-3 reactor, they estimate, is more than 20 Chernobyls. But Chernobyl, you know, it only quadrupled cancer rates in those areas of Europe around it. This all and the trade winds blew over to America. You know what we do today? We just say everything's fine. And that's my point about the globalists. When we come back from break, I have a Darren McBreen InfoWars special report that we first premiered last Friday evening on the InfoWars Nightly News, where we went out on the streets. You may have seen it. This actually did get reported in a few publications about 3 weeks ago. You may have heard there was a big fight over releasing the research on a killer weaponized bird flu that's been designed to jump into humans and be airborne and kills, you're lucky. This only kills 83, 85% of the humans it comes in contact with when it was able to jump. Of course, it's souped up now, but only 80-something%. The airborne Ebola they've developed, our government, the airborne swine flu, the airborne human mousepox. Now, those are killing 98, 99, the Ebola, 93, 95. You know, it all varies. And under biodefense, they've got over 200 labs across the United States that are in level 2 facilities that you get into with a swipe card and wear a mask. And in this report coming up, McBreen's got all the numbers where the government says per lab, they estimate 70% chance. 70+% chance that this stuff will get out of one of these labs per lab in the next few decades. And there's 200 plus in the United States alone, like the University of Texas here at Austin has a level 4 bioweapon lab and a level 2 facility. And I've had people in government call me before and say, you ought not be talking about nuclear reactors in North Austin. You ought not be talking about the bioweapons research at UT out at the monkey farms out at Bastrop. And I've said to these government people, they're not calling up threatening me. They're, they're listeners, or I run into them, or they reach out to me and it turns out they are government. And they're saying terrorists might hit there. Look, the terrorists already know this is all there. You mean the terrorists like our government's putting in charge of Libya and trying to have invade Iran and Syria? You mean that Al-Qaeda? The ones they're using in Uganda to start a civil war? You mean those that the CIA created? You mean those? See, I'm the bad man for the fact that UT has 2 giant, for research reactors, they're as big as they get, nuclear reactors in North Austin. Or bioweapon labs downtown Austin and in Bastrop. Just not supposed to talk about that, because I'm the bad guy for telling you it's there, you have to understand. See, I'm not afraid of imaginary terrorist that I got a 1 in 3.5 million, was it 1 in 3.5 plus million chances of dying from each year as an American. I'm actually worried about stuff that if it's released, will kill everybody. And government all day claims they're taking our rights away to keep us safe, but meanwhile, they're endangering us with all these laboratories, like the University of Texas, not picking on them, it's just where I live, at Galveston with a level 4 bioweapons lab with stuff in it that'll kill 9 out of 10 people if it gets out. Okay? That's my point. They can't control Fukushima. They can't control these bioweapons. Special report coming up. All right, let me settle down just a little bit and get back into our special report here dealing with super weaponized Ebola, bird flu, mousepox that kill between 83 to 99% of the humans they come in contact with, depending which variant it is. And, of course, if you were actually watching us at prisonplanet.tv, you'd actually be able to see all the articles as Darren McBreen is talking to people on the street here in Austin, Texas. But I find Austin is a good sample for the rest of the country and the world for that matter. But my central point here is we're lectured all day about giving our rights up because the government cares about us and wants to take care of us. But the government itself is just a wide-open slot machine for special interests to come in and buy off bureaucrats to basically shut down their competition, give them government bailouts, you name it. And so if you have a family like I do, and you're actually worried about real threats to them, a war with Iran, genetic engineering, GMO foods, all these new wars, these are the real threats. And remember Fukushima. For 3 months, while it was big in the news, they said, there's really no radiation, everything's fine, nothing melted down, it's under control. The reactors, several of them are still smoking and still melting down today. And you don't see any warnings about, hey, don't touch the junk coming in on the California coastline. because it's been soaked in plutonium that's going to be radioactive for billions of years. No, it's just, you know what? Whatever.